I am really excited that you are here today, and I apologize I was a little late getting here. But let me tell you why I wanted you to be here. As you may know, the Secretary of the Treasury, who has authority over all the money, has said he is going to redesign the $10 bill. That means that we will soon possibly have a different person on the bill. Right now, you may know, do you know who it is? Alexander Hamilton. And Alexander Hamilton is there because he was the first Secretary of the Treasury. The Secretary of the Treasury, as you might expect from the name Treasury, has authority over all the money in the country. He's the one who helps decide what the interest rates are, how much money there is, how many different bills are produced, and he has the power to help determine who's going to be on this redesigned bill. Now, part of the reason to redesign it is to make it more secure. The bills that you have right now, I just happen to have a few with me, are more easily reproduced, and that's called counterfeiting by people who aren't supposed to do it. So somebody could produce this bill, and by the way, that's Alexander Hamilton, and what they are going to do is try to make it more secure with certain kinds of markings on it. You can see all these elaborate little squirrely cues and the coloring and the size of the type. Well, they can make that better defined in a way that makes it more secure and less easily counterfeitable by somebody who wants to just make money. But they also can put somebody else's picture on there. And that's what brings us here today. Because one of the ideas is to put a woman on that $10 bill, which I think is very appropriate. And I wanted to hear from you who you think should be on this bill. Whose image should be on this bill? Which woman? There have actually been about 1.5 million comments from people, because needless to say, the announcement that they were thinking about a woman led to a lot of letters and phone calls. They've heard from 1.5 million people. And I wanted to really hear directly from some young women who are going to be using this bill. You'll be using it for a long time, right? I hope so. And maybe bigger denominations too, because $10 doesn't get you as far as it used to. So I wanted to hear from you. Now, you know, some of the popular ones have been Harriet Tubman, Eleanor Roosevelt. Just a little historical footnote here. I didn't know this before I began doing some research, but only one woman has ever appeared on a bill. You know who it was? Martha Washington. Martha Washington appeared on a $10 bill briefly in the 19th century. That's in the 1800s. And since then, no woman has been on any bill ever. A few on coins, but the coins weren't commonly used and they went out of existence. So nobody uses, except the collectors, nobody has these coins these days. So here's the bottom line, as they say. I want to listen to you about who you think should have the honor because of her accomplishments, her stature, her character, and what she means to you. Because you ought to be part of this decision. This will be your $10 bill. And maybe there'll be others, women, on other bills as well. $20, $50, $100. But this is one of the most commonly used, so this one is going to see a lot of wear and tear. As you can see, this one has already seen a lot of wear and tear before it reached me. So let me open it to you, and we will let your moms chime in if they are really polite and they don't take too much time in their answers. Just kidding. I really want to thank your moms for making it possible for you to be here today. Really important that you came, and I know you wouldn't be here if they weren't here. So in all seriousness, I really want to hear from them as well, because they'll be using this bill for a long time too. I can see that they're going to be using it for a long time. So let me open it to you. It's always hardest to be the first person to talk. I know that. So summon up your courage. Some of you look like you have some stuff written down, and we'll go with whoever wants to raise your hand first. You're putting that away? Yes. And all I ask you to do is just speak up a little bit, okay? So everyone can hear you.
I thought that Elizabeth Blackwell should be in volleyball because she was the first woman to get awarded a medical degree by a college. So I think she opened up lots of opportunities for other women because she, so they saw that a woman could be a doctor now, and no other woman has been before, so maybe they should try too.
That is a great suggestion. That's a great idea. And I want you to know, I may not be writing stuff down, but Heather Sandler, who works in my office, by the way, she was in the military. She's a veteran, and she's one of our top staff people. So she's going to be making notes on everything you say. Well, yes.
I had a hard time choosing because there's so many different women who deserve to be on the $10 bill.
Yep.
So I decided to go and think about it based on the Declaration of Independence. And I was researching it along with its ideologies that represent the U.S., liberty, freedom, justice, bravery, and kindness. And while researching, I came upon Abigail Adams, the first second lady and the second first lady. She was the wife of John Adams. And I learned that she actually was one of the main feminists in the early times because women didn't have as many rights. And one thing I learned was that she wanted women to be mentioned in the Declaration of Independence. And one of her famous quotes was, "Don't forget the women." And I can read an excerpt of the letter she wrote.
Yep.
"I long to hear that you have declared," and she wrote this to her husband, who was trying to create the Declaration of Independence. This was in the same year. It was written just on March 31st, before July 4th. "I long to hear that you have declared an independency. And, by the way, in a new code of laws which I suppose it will be necessary for you to make, I desire you would remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of the husbands. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could. And if particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion, and will not hold ourselves bound by any laws to which we have no voice or representation." And it was just shy of 150 years later before women got the right to vote. So I just thought that since she was such a feminist and wanted women to have the same amount of, she was known for advocating an education in the public schools for girls that was equal to that given of boys, and I found that she would be a great influence to have on a $10 bill because she was a feminist.
That is great. That's really a great idea.
Thank you.
You know, The only thing I disagree with is that, of course, all men would be tyrants. If maybe that's true, I don't know. But I want to tell you that the choice of Abigail Adams is very interesting because she was one of the great figures in the founding of our nation.
Mm-hmm.
She gave John Adams a lot of his ideas. I don't know whether you've read a biography of him, but I've read a couple of biographies, and they corresponded. There are books of their correspondence. They corresponded so frequently. These days, we text each other, and you can receive those messages instantaneously. Literally, they had to wait months sometimes for their letters to reach each other. So that is a really good suggestion. Thank you. Anyone else? Yep.
I think Julia Gordon Bell should be on the $10 bill because during World War I, Gordon Bell had taught her girls how to conserve food. She had also went to Castle Maine and let a Belgian refugee family stay.
Mm-hmm.
Julia fundraised monies for England soldiers. She had her girls help Red Cross by making surgical dresses, knitting clothes for soldiers. She also had them pick oakum, scrapbooks for wounded soldiers, and make smokeless trench candles for soldiers to heat their fire with.
That's really an excellent idea because there's a lot of feeling, and I feel this way, that our nation isn't doing as much for its veterans, or veterans as they should be. And I'm on the committee in the Senate. It's called the Veterans Affairs Committee. I'm the ranking member, which means I'm kind of second in command. And so that idea, because she helped our veterans, that's really an excellent idea. Yes?
So I also nominate Juliette Gordon-Bell. The reasoning for this is that I believe that she's done a lot of things in history, especially, none of us would be here today as Girl Scouts. She went to England where she met the founder of Boy Scouts. And she thought it would be pretty much a good idea that basically if boys get the chance to go like hiking and all that stuff, why can't girls?
Mm-hmm.
So in a way it's like she basically like really started everything for girls in general. So she started Girl Scouts. She sold her $1,000 pearls just to start the troop because she wasn't in the best financial state. And I mean, she was pretty powerful in general. And I don't know, I feel like she should definitely be on the $10 bill.
Great point. Is that a picture of her?
Yeah.
It's interesting. So she was born in 1860 and she died in 1927.
Due to breast cancer.
So she was about 67.
Yeah. She didn't tell anyone about her breast cancer while she was running her troop.
Yeah. And is that what she died of?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Well, that's an amazing story, and I'm so glad, that you suggested her, because I haven't seen her suggest it, but it's a great idea. Does anyone outside here have any suggestions or ideas? I really would be interested, as long as it's not Taylor Swift.
It was Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, well, that's a good idea. Very interesting.
Right.
Yeah. That's a very interesting idea, and I think it raises the question. She's obviously accomplished a tremendous amount, and she's helped open eyes and make people more tolerant, and, I think educated a lot of people. And I think the only question is whether it should be someone who's still alive. Because, a lot of times they will not name things after people who are still alive, even school buildings or stuff like that. Partly they say it's because, you know, they want to respect people after they pass away. I have a theory that it's because they're afraid that person may do something bad while they're still around, and then they'll have a school building named after the person or a $10 bill with that person's image. But she's obviously been a great contributor. Do you want to talk some more about that?
Sure. Well, I don't really like watch her show or anything, but from what you see everywhere, she's like a really confident person, and she's not just all serious.
Yeah.
She's funny too. So it's not like you're having someone that's like gonna shoot you off if you're like being funny
Right.
around them.
Right,
It's just more of a mutual thing.
right. Well, that's a very good point. Anybody else? This has been really an amazing conversation. Anyone else in the,
I just have a question.
yes,
Since there are so many, in my mind, there are so many great choices. The way we have many, many quarters with different
Yeah.
images on them, to have many different $10 bills with many different women, since it is so hard to
Yeah.
narrow the list.
that's an excellent question. I'll look into it. I'll look into it, and maybe if you leave me your information, I'll get back to you. I'm just guessing that one of the obstacles may be the cost.
Yeah.
Because I think quarters may be easier to make than $10 bills. But let me ask. Good idea.
One other nominee that I'm sure many people from the people who have mailed and called have probably said, but Rosa Parks, because she stands for a lot of the morals of the U.S. She decided to stand up for justice and freedom,
Yeah.
and because of it, she made a big difference.
Yep. I think, you know, I was just looking here for the list of people, but she is one of the folks who has been mentioned, who has been suggested in the past. She's one of the more commonly mentioned. So that's a good idea too. There's so many good, as you said, there's so many good ideas. Yeah.
So does the person have to be like alive, or could it be some, like, is the person have to be dead, or could the person be alive too?
They haven't said for sure, as far as I know. My guess is they want somebody who is dead. Because then you can look at their whole life, her whole life. Any other questions or comments? No? Yes?
And I'm assuming that this process is going to be a very, very long process. How would this work at the end? Every state will bring a proposed person, or what is the process for this to finalize who is the person on the $10 bill?
I think they will have a committee process, and they won't actually start making these bills until, I believe it's 2020. So it will take a while, but 2020 is not that far away. But they'll have a committee process, and it'll be non-political, non-partisan.
Oh, I was just thinking, I have like some mixed emotions about the whole living or dead thing, because why are you looking at the whole dead person's life other than, you know, what they've done good, but a living person for what they're going to do? Because between the time that it's right now to the time that they're going to start making these, a lot could be accomplished.
Mhm. Well, I guess the idea is, you know, we have other bills. So for someone who is still accomplishing things, not that it's a race or a competition, but Michelle Obama may go on to do all kinds of great things completely apart from being the First Lady. I don't know what she could do, but maybe she'll earn the right over the course of her lifetime to be on one of the bills. And so we have to view her whole life, and that you can't do that obviously until someone has passed away. So when do you guys, yes?
So kind of like her question with the whole different faces on the bills and, you know, making different ones. Why can't we have like a few women on one bill specifically?
More than one person on a bill. Very interesting and good question. Because, you know, there's some people who say, Alexander Hamilton, why should he be taken off the bill? You know, what's he, chopped liver? I mean, literally, without kidding around, Alexander Hamilton was one of the greats in our history. It's because of him that we have a national currency. Because a lot of the states, you may know this from your American history class, a lot of the states said at the time of the founding of our republic, we already have our own currency. We don't need a national currency. So why should we go along with your dollar bill? We're going to use our South Carolina currency, just like countries have different currency. Alexander Hamilton said we should have a national currency, we should have a national bank, we should have a Department of Treasury, and we all take it for granted now. But he had a great role to play in our nation's history. Because think of what we would be like if every state had a different kind of currency. You have to go to New York and exchange your currency and all that. It's bad enough, you know, with the Chinese devaluating their currency, right? So he was a great figure, and one of the suggestions is that he be kept on the bill in some way with a woman. So maybe there could be more than one, but I think the idea is we should pick one woman and see where it goes from there. Now, I've been sort of playing around with some ideas for other bills, like the $20 bill. Andrew Jackson's picture is on the $20 bill. You know, I think the argument, there's a good argument to be made that Andrew Jackson deserves less to be on a bill than Alexander Hamilton. Ironically, Andrew Jackson was against a national currency. So, and he did a lot of things that we might regret now. Did you have a question? No? Okay. So I think there are other bills, and the $20 bill, by the way, there are more of them than there are the $10 bill. But maybe two or more could be on. Yep.
Like if they change the dollar bill to a woman, what will be on the back of it? The same thing, or are they going to change that too?
I think this, well, they could change the other side, but there's no, I should get this out before I say. See, right now, I mean, this is where they could put somebody else's picture. They have his picture right now there. This is the U.S. Treasury Department. Have you all been to Washington? Have you visited Washington? So the U.S. Treasury Department, have you been to the White House? Have you seen the White House? Driven past it or anything?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're standing in front of the White House, on the left, you will see a building with a lot of pillars, looks just like this. That's the U.S. Treasury. That's not where they actually make dollar bills. But it is where they do all the work of deciding what should, you know, how many of them to make and all that. So that's the White House. And that's Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill. So you could conceivably put another person on the other side. So your idea is not too far-fetched. Yes?
If they change the $10 bill, will like the other $10 bills still, will you be able to use it, or is that?
Will we still be able to use the old $10 bill? Probably yes. sometimes they ask for coins or bills to be turned in if they're very old. But probably just for a while at least, they'll allow both bills to be in circulation. Good question. Excellent question. Thank you all for being here. It's really been very, very interesting and very valuable to me, because I'm going to take these ideas and take them back to Washington, and I'm going to write to the U.S. Secretary of Treasury with some of these ideas. And maybe one of these days, when one of you gets to be a U.S. Senator, I'll be voting for you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Pearl.